So this video is going to teach you how to do a t-test on Microsoft Excel. And we use a t-test when we have two sets of data and we want to see if there's a significant difference between them. So in this example, we're going to use a little game where you have to tranquilize a sheep. And I'll show you what that looks like here. So this is the actual reaction test to test how fast your reactions are. And so we've already got some data here. We're going to do one time with our eyes open. And then we're going to take one more set of data with our eyes closed and a partner taps us on the shoulder. And as you might predict, the eyes closed is going to be much, much slower. So we've got 10 sets of data for each, 10 pieces of data, and we're going to see if there is indeed statistically a significant difference between the two. So we're also going to review some other graphing techniques. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take a mean of each, and I think everybody remembers how to do that, and hit return, and then we can just find the little black cross and drag it over, and we get the mean for the other. Next thing we're going to do is we'll do our standard deviation. And mine's under recently used because I use it. If yours isn't, you can go to insert function and just type in stdev and then hit OK. And then you're going to highlight this set of data, but be careful not to highlight the mean, just this part here, and hit OK. Little black cross, drag it over, and we get it for the other column. Now we want to see this data represented graphically, so we will graph the average of each, and we're going to use a bar graph for that, and there's our bar graph. And it shows obviously that the reaction time is quicker for eyes open. Let's take a look at our error bars now as well. So go to custom, and then we're just going to get rid of that and type in or put in our standard deviation. And for the negative error value, the same thing, and hit OK. And just looking, we can see that the error bars, this one goes up to here, and it doesn't overlap at all. So the error bars don't overlap at all between these two. So that tells us something right away. But because we're biology nerds, we're going to do a t-test. So we're going to get something called a p-value. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to go back to formulas. And again, mine's recently used, but you can go to insert function and you'll get this thing called t-test and hit OK. Array 1 is your first set of data, again without the mean. Array 2 will be your second set of data. Tails, you're going to use the number 2, and type, you're going to use 3. And hit OK. Now I'm going to compare this number to 0.05 or 5%. And you can see that this number, 4.39 times 10 to the negative 6th, it's much smaller than 0.05. And what that tells me is there is a significant difference between my two sets of data. So the reaction time is indeed different between eyes open and eyes closed, which is what we would predict based on looking at the numbers, the mean, and the graph. But this isn't always going to be the case. Sometimes you'll have data where it's too close to call, or you're going to have to use the t-test and you can't just check it visually. And we'll look at one such example now. So I had exam class 1, I have their exam scores here, and exam class 2, and I have their scores here. And we want to see if there's a significant difference between them. Just looking, looks like some of these numbers are high, and some of these are a little bit lower. But we're going to see that we just can't look at them to tell. And we'll do the same thing. We'll get a mean. And drag that over here. And we'll do standard deviation again. And drag that over here. And then we'll go ahead and graph. Again, bar graph is going to be the way to go. And we're going to graph the mean. Okay, and then we will do some error bars as well. Custom, get rid of that. Put in my standard deviation. Get rid of that. Put in my standard deviation. Close that up. Now, visually, we can just tell, look, how much overlap there is between the error bars. And that tells us, just looking at it, there's not probably a significant difference between the two, but let's prove it. So we will get our p-value here, and we'll go back to formulas and a t-test, and array 1 is my first set of data. Array 2 is my second set. Doesn't really matter that they're a different number of data. And I'm going to do 2 and 3 and hit OK. And I'm going to compare my number again to 0.05. This number, 0.0586, blah, 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 is of course higher than 0.05. And this tells us, again, confirming what we can see visually, there is no significant difference between these two sets of exam classes. So I wouldn't be able to say one is better than the other. So that's how you do a t-test.